Welcome back to Definitely Not Definitive. I'm Ken.
And I'm Bethany.
And we're just a fantastic couple in love that loves reacting to some Fallout.
It's Fallout time.
It's Fallout time. So this is the Storyteller Fallout series. This is season 3, episodes 5 and 6. Who Run Junktown and Fistful of Caps. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So if you want all of our Fallout reactions, check out the description of this video because we got a playlist there for you. Are you ready?
No.
Oh my God. Again. Again.
Almost every time. So Fallout does have its own drink. I'm going to have to do this one-handed because Bucky's in my lap. So here's my drink.
And it's a stim pack.
It's not a stim pack spritzer without the stim pack. So you got to put that in. And you got to stir it around. I'm doing mine off camera. I'm sorry. And then you cheers.
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 Okay. Now we're ready.
Now we are ready.
In the summer of 2076, they switched back from high fructose corn syrup and carob extract to cane sugar and cocoa powder.
You say something? I switched off my headset 3 hours ago.
It just recited the complete text of Tales of a Junktown jerky vendor verbatim, including the lost chapters
great name.
about Gizmo's hidden treasure.
Tales of the Junktown Chicken.
You've been talking about cupcakes.
Try saying that
since we
like
left
5 times
California.
So you
like a tongue
were
twister.
listening.
And there's no hidden treasure in Junktown? It's never been anything more than a pile of rusted slag thrown together by, what's his name? Dark Fists, Dark Blood.
Darkwater. He was a soldier before the Great War.
Damn. People gave their kids stupid names in those days.
Darkwater figured that instead of rebuilding the ruins of an existing city, he'd build his own town from scratch, just like in the pioneer times. He organized other survivors and used broken down cars and trucks to make a barricade, and then made a whole town inside those walls. He kept the peace in the years following the war. His son eventually took over the role of mayor. By 2161, Darkwater's grandson, Killian, was in charge of the town. They got their share of travelers and traders because the place was halfway between Shady Sands and the Boneyard. Folk could get a drink, enjoy games of chance, and find some companionship.
Spare me your euphemisms. They had a whorehouse, a bar that poured rot gut, and a rigged casino, just like half the towns in the wasteland back then. And none of that's changed outside of NCR territory. This thing we're looking for was last seen in Cottonwood Cove.
We'll have to head northeast, I-15.
Cottonwood Cove is southeast. Might pick up their tracks on the other side of the Colorado River.
Whoever's carrying your item will eventually have to use Route 70. That means they'll head north toward Zion Park. Roads and bridges were clear on I-15 right up to Route 70 last time I was there.
If we hoof it, we might be able to catch them on the far side of the Devil's Throat.
That's up by Bitter Springs.
I don't need to hear any stories about Bitter Springs. This thing's got a head start on us. Let's move. I won't even bother telling you to keep quiet this time. Something tells me you're not finished yapping about.
Junktown was the Vault Dwellers' first moral dilemma. The people in Shady Sands were all unified, but Junktown had 2 factions vying for control of the city. Killian Darkwater was the mayor and sheriff. He kept the riffraff under control for the most part.
Oh, we got tons to do. The Scum Pit's on the east side by the entrance. Great drinking place. Gizmo's is near there.
Oh.
I owe you. Thanks, friend.
But all that law and order didn't sit well with a fella named Gizmo. He ran a casino.
I know who Gizmo was. Tycho. The
was
desert
a
man
model.
left notes behind about his time with the Vault Dweller.
It's okay.
Gizmo kept trying to get rid of Killian Darkwater, but Killian couldn't prove it. So he hired the Vault Dweller to investigate Gizmo's casino and collect evidence. Just like in those pre-war detective novels. Taking a stand for law and order was what made Tycho join up with the Vault Dweller. He wanted to clean up that town and move on. Do some good around the rest of the wasteland. Once they got the goods on Gizmo, they took him down. Never looked back. Tell
it,
that thing
Edna?
to quit beeping at me.
She wants to know if you'll be friends.
How do you say go to hell in robot?
Oh, yeah.
Like that. Anyway,
Blame you.
as I was saying, Gizmo wasn't the only trouble in Junktown, or even the worst. The Skulls gang terrorized the local barkeep. Trunks used the working girls at the crash house as punching bags. And the local sawbones. Well, Doc Morbid specialized in any operation that ends with ectomy. And he never let anything go to waste.
You telling me
was
the people
Doc
of
Morbid?
Junktown were cannibals?
Nope. Doc Morbid had a little export business. Sent his spare parts to a fellow who sold iguana meat in the next town over.
Savages. What town was that?
Just the biggest city in the wasteland, the hub. The Vault Dweller went there after Junktown, but not for the iguana bits. What happened there finally put him on the right path to finding a water chip for Vault 13. I heard the tale from someone who lived in the hub at the time, and he swears he saw it all happen firsthand. But that is a story for...
You really need to stop saying that.
No! He's gotta say it every single time.
So I like her, but did she have to be so mean to Edna?
Right?
That felt uncalled for. And I felt Edna was totally justified in her response.
I like the Junktown jerky vendor still.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a great title. I feel like somebody should create a shop with that name. And I'm still intrigued by their brewing relationship, partnership. Like right now they are, well, she certainly is at least using him for her own means, but
Yeah.
I feel like, more is going to blossom here. I'm not saying romance. I'm just saying like more of a friendship. There could be something there.
Okay.
I
right.
want there to be at least.
Let's go on to A Fistful of Caps.
So after that, the Vault Dweller from Vault 13 went to the hub, and there they met a guy with a tree growing out of his head. Sounds a little far-fetched to me, Storyteller.
Well, it wasn't a tree back then. Looked more like a little seed pod, but it wasn't a plant at all. Harold was one of the first to be exposed to the forced evolutionary virus, and ended up looking like a ghoul with an eccentric taste in headwear. Harold was born before the Great War and survived in a vault. A nice one by Vault Tech standards. He got out of the place about a dozen years after the war and took well to the New World. Eventually made his way to the hub and worked the caravans. After the war, water became the most precious resource in the wasteland. Fallout clouded the riverbeds and lakes.
See that?
And people learned that drinking the rainwater was just a slow death.
Don't lecture me about finding fresh water, you tin horn. The hub was built on top of an oasis. The groundwater was deep enough that the radioactive particles were filtered out by the soil and rock. Your friend with a tree in his head worked for the water merchants, right?
Nope. This was before the water merchants and the Great Merchant Wars, back when the hub was just a little camp run by a man named Angus out of the ruins of Barstow. Harold and some other traders ran caravans to nearby places like Junktown and the Angel's Boneyard. The town prospered, but their caravans kept getting attacked by mutated animals, so Harold got together a team of prominent hub citizens and went up north to see what was what. Harold was the only one that returned. Told me the names of the others once. Mark, Francine, Richard. All of them met some unfortunate end.
Ooh.
I think your little robot is pretending to have feelings again.
Not pretending.
Harold probably got the worst of it. After he mutated, he ended up living as a beggar, watching the city he helped create flourish all around him. The hub became so prosperous that someone killed off Angus to take control of it, and the merchants and traders fought over the water for years afterwards. The Vault Dweller and their associates arrived 30 years after all of that. By then, the city had a central council, a sheriff, a library, and the water merchants had an undisputed claim on the oasis. They even brought the idea of money back to the wasteland. Ever wonder why people use bottle caps as currency in some places?
Too lazy to make a printing press?
started with what they used to call hub script. At first, the water merchants would barter for their water, but over time, instead of using bottles of water for currency, they just used bottle caps to represent the value of the water. That way, merchants didn't have to carry around hundreds of gallons of water when trading valuable commodities.
Smart.
The
Yeah.
NCR has been using banknotes for most of my life. A few shops still used caps when I was a kid. Used to save up a couple to buy energy cells and make my giddy-up buttercup run around the living room. Quit jawing and get moving. I want to reach the north shore of Lake Mead before sundown.
Well, the vault dweller had never seen caps before they left the vault. The overseer didn't, or couldn't, provide them with valuables to barter with. When they arrived in the hub, they had earned a few caps at Shady Sands and Junktown, but it wasn't enough to send a shipment of water way up north to the vault. The water merchants were willing to ship the water. They were hardly the types to do charity work. The vault dweller didn't have enough to pay, so they had to take jobs guarding caravans out of the hub. Guided a shipment from the Crimson Caravan to the boneyard and made a new friend, Katya. She was a scavenger who didn't even realize that she was in the presence of greatness. She just saw an excuse to get out of Los Angeles.
Damn it, you think I don't know who she was?
I don't believe Edna's heard that one yet. The five of them protected caravans all over the wasteland. The vault dweller came to be known throughout the hub as a person who got things done. Earned a few caps clearing out a network of underground crime in the hub, did the good deed of chasing off nearby raiders, and engaged in some general mischief with the local thieves guild. The team made short work of anyone foolish enough to tangle with them. Want to camp here for the night?
Can't spare the time.
Beautiful spot.
This thing's too far ahead of us. We'll rest once we're past the Devil's Throat.
Wasn't long before they had enough money to pay off the water merchants. But even with the extra water from the hub, Vault 13 wouldn't last another year without a new water chip. The hub held more adventures and mysteries than the Vault Dweller had time to explore, and some didn't seem worth the trouble to investigate.
Like that church, the Vault Dweller must have walked right past the children dozens of times and never realized what they were.
Once the vault had a few more months of water, it was time to head on to a nearby town that had a vault beneath it. Seemed like the best chance to find a new water chip. Used to be known as Bakersfield, but by 2161, it had acquired a new name. The Vault Dweller had learned a lot about the wasteland at the hub and was ready to handle anything humanity had to throw at them. What they encountered in the place that used to be Bakersfield was no longer human.
Oh.
But that
Is a story for another day.
Hey, catching that. I'm looking forward to the next episode. That was a great, that was a great ending there. A great little teaser there. I like that she's catching on. That's the story for another day.
Yeah, I mean, even though she is still like slinging jabs at Edna,
yeah.
she is like less salty a little bit, just a pinch. I do wonder what her history is with robots, because I kind of feel like there's got to be some reason why she's got a bit of venom towards Edna for what really seems like no reason from our end.
Makes me think of Mando. He hated robots too.
Yeah. So there's a history there.
Yeah.
I thought the bottle caps to avoid having to carry the water and stuff was brilliant. Kind of a fun way of coming up with a little currency. And it was interesting to hear how she said growing up that, there had been banknotes in the NCR, but she could remember bottle caps as a currency as a kid.
I also, Agnes, I think it was Angus, who was in charge of the camp and then ended up getting killed because someone else wanted to be in charge of the camp. It just reminded me of this biography I was reading about Willie Sutton. He was a famous bank robber, and he was like, talking about when he was growing up, and he grew up in a crime world. And down at the docks, he was like, the way he became dock leader was by retiring the former dock leader. So he's like nobody grew old in that position. It's like it was a good position to have because you made money, but you did not have that position for very long because everyone was always trying to was literally gunning for it.
Ugh.
Yeah. So I don't know.
World.
That just reminded me of it. Yeah. Dark World for sure.
I also have to shout out the name The Devil's Throat as like that waterway river area. Just because, I thought it was like a good name from a ye old Western kind of vibe, but also if you're in the nuclear apocalypse and water is potentially toxic, then The Devil's Throat is kind of a fitting title.
Yeah. And then also, I don't know, at some point, like this like triggered our puppy Bucky.
Oh my God.
And he started like barking like crazy against it. Like we had to like start this over a couple times. He was like, as soon as we started, like he'd start barking and going crazy at it.
And it's weird because he's watched
it was just Fallout.
Yeah, but he's watched other episodes of Fallout
Yeah.
on my lap and been fine. And we watched other things today and he was fine. We even took a break from this when it triggered him. And he was fine for the stuff that we watched during our break, but then came back to this and boom, he started right back up again.
Yeah, it was weird. I don't know. I don't think he likes the fact that that Helen doesn't like Edna.
Yeah.
I think he's you gotta treat your pets right, even if they're robots.
Exactly.
Let us know what you thought about this down below in the comments. And if you want all of our Fallout reactions, check out the description of this video. We got a playlist there for you. Thanks so much for checking out our reaction for Fallout Season 3, Episodes 5 and 6. But just keep in mind
that our reaction is definitely not definitive.